All right, and we're back. Right, so let's maybe just disable all of these lights and then enable them one by one and see what they do. All right, so let's see if there's actually one that's already turned off maybe, so we don't accidentally end up with something that just looked weird. Okay. All right, so let's go like that. Okay, so let's have a look at some of these lights. Okay, so let's turn them all off. All right, let's turn them on one by one. So, okay, we have the top light here. You can see that's similar to the thing we had as well. So that's if I enable it. That's just this one, but it's just quite large in my scene. But you see, it doesn't have that much influence on the full thing. I'm just going to close this. You see, it does have some influence on the subsurface scattering. I think on the yeah, you can see the subsurface scattering. So you also have in these lights, you have ray contributions. So you can see I increased the multiple scattering scale and I increased single scatter and specular scale. So you have on these lights, you have individual things you can increase. So similar to what we did with the volume, like the volumetric intensity is quite large, quite small, but I increased these intensities and the diffuse scale, I just kept it as it is. Right, so let's add one volume light. Let's enable it. So that's going to be, where is it? Okay, so that's a spotlight here. And that spotlight is aimed at the back rocks. If we look over here, so that's sort of filling up the whole backside here with some nice caustics. You see, I have the specular scale turned down. So sometimes you run into these issues where you have like weird hotspots in your render in the specular, and there's no override for that. So that might be just that because we're working with quite high intensities here, that it just might be that is causing some of these issues. So I had some very weird hotspots in my squid. So what I did is I turned down a lot of the specular scale on a lot of my lights that are so that I'm not sure if I have no. Okay, so just to make sure that those speculars were not caused by those lights. So I have very little specular, I think, on my squid itself. You can see just on the eyes, but there's a little bit. Right, so let's add some more lights. So these are the squid lights. Let's wait with these a little bit. Let's just first do the some other lights. Let's enable this volume light. Right, let's enable it. So that's another volume light that we have. So let's see which one is that. So looks like it's exactly on the same spot. Actually not sure why it's there. I think I might have accidentally have just two of those. So what more, you know? Okay, that's what I mean. Like where you're just working, sometimes you end up with like some of a mess. All right, so what they have here is caustics fill. So let's see what that one does. So let's enable it. So you can see this has the diffuse scale boosted up, and it's like, let's see where it is. So that's also what we did in the assemble course. So you can see it's over here. It's just projected on there, but I don't have it influencing. Oh, it does also influence the volumetrics a little bit, by the way. So like if I were to increase that, I don't want to do that too much, but it helped sort of, well, you could see it a little bit, but it helped sort of boosting out the caustics a little bit. So there's the caustics main as well. So let's enable that one. So you can see that's generating some caustics here and there. So now we have basically the main stuff for the environment on. Now we have these squid lights. So let's have a look at where they are located. So let's press. Okay, so there's one over here. Where is it? There's one over left from the squid. So let's turn it on. So you can kind of see now why I'm sort of lighting these squid separately. So because the thing was, the squid just stayed quite dark whenever I didn't do that. So initially I had a lot of subsurface scattering on them, and then they would still look sort of what good, but it wouldn't look sort of like cinematic. Okay, so now this is the light just filling in from the left side there. Let's turn on this other one. So where is that one located? Right, so I have here one on the other side. So that's gonna fill him in a little bit on this side. Okay, there's one on the back. So the back one will sort of create a rim light, and it was also that one sort of lights up his the area over here. So then you have this sort of that nice light like shining through him, sort of to his through his tentacles. And let's see, do we have them all on now? I think so. Yeah, so that's the entire thing. So that's basically just the extra lights that I have to sort of make this just look, well, nicer than than without that whole thing. So let me look at the. Right, so let's do a bucket render maybe. And oh, you can see, by the way, I think my coral in this scene doesn't have, or does it? Let's do bucket render. Let's observe scattering. Let's just do a bucket render and see how it will look. Okay, so the thing finished rendering. So I think there's some light that's a little bit too bright still. Not sure which one because I didn't tweak anything from the original thing. But other than that, looks good. I have denoising turned off right now, so I'm going to do that for the final render. But yeah, we can go through all the passes, reflection, refraction. So again, this is the one that we're going to use to create sort of the eye sac thing in comp. So refraction looks good. You can see the eyes did have a bit of refraction in my original render. GI. See the GI is a little bit hard. Specular. So the Z depth, it's super wide now, but shouldn't matter because we should have enough information. Oh, I had normal and position passes, but we don't really need those in composting, but I'll just leave them in. Subsurface scattering. So cryptomat, it's blue, but in composting you can sort of pick things to mask out. So that's nice. Cryptomat object and UV pass, so for the eyes. So we have everything that we need. So we can render this as a sequence, or not. We're not going to render an actual sequence because that's going to take super long because the final render for this thing, just the main thing, was about 60 hours, so it was quite long. And I have 3 GPUs, so it might be even longer for your system. Okay, so let's make sure that I don't accidentally override my original render. Because I did move this to a new location. Let's submerge tutorial, blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's looks good. So we're just gonna render one frame. So let's render this frame, like 1225. So in terms of settings, GI settings, you see I had a lot more bounces. So 8 bounces. Well, optimizations, this is the trace depth. We didn't go that much into that, but you can find stuff on that more on the Redshift website. So yeah, just general setup. I had minimum samples cranked up because of the depth of field. Maximum samples to 69. Oh, 96, sorry. Here's some sampling overrides. But in general, pretty okay. So I'm just going to render a frame from this. So I'm not gonna use $F4, I'm just gonna use a single frame for compositing right now. Then I'll also include this frame in the download. And then we're gonna jump into Fusion to do the compositing. So I really hope you enjoyed the whole Houdini aspect of this. You are now not a beginner anymore in Houdini. Well, if you understand all of these things. So really hope you enjoy this part. Now let's dive into the final part, which will be the compositing. So also quite interesting. We're going to composite in Fusion. I have to point out I am not a Fusion expert. I have done a couple of projects in Fusion, but before that I've used After Effects for years. But I kind of want to transition more into using Fusion. So I recently bought Fusion Studio. So that's also why I composited this thing in. So we'll be compositing this in Fusion Studio. And if you're like pretty new to 3D in general, then that's also going to be pretty interesting because we're going to be using multipass compositing. So we're going to be rebuilding the beauty render from this passes, and then we have some more control over the stuff. So it's going to be quite interesting. So yeah, I'm going to render this frame. So I'm just going to put render to disk, and then in the next couple of videos we'll be covering the compositing, and then we're through the entire course after that's done.